Hello again, it's Richard Luna, your pastor reflection giver here. That's going to share with you just hopefully a little quicker each time I do this. So I'm going to get right to it if you don't mind. Today is November the 6th, and I had the opportunity this morning to attend a community-wide 200th anniversary of Morton Cemetery, one of the oldest cemeteries in this whole area. And this was an area where people came together 200 years ago and began to create a space where folks could come and retreat and mourn and reflect and celebrate life. And in doing so, it's established a tradition that has been ongoing for 200 years. It's a majestic cemetery filled with many stories of life, death, but also accomplishments and legends, if you will, and a legacy that's been passed on from generation to generation. As I reflected on that and got in my car and started heading back to the church then, as I'm driving to the church, it suddenly dawns on me, 200 years ago, people were meeting at this place now called Morton Cemetery. But it was only 14 years later that a group of people gathered in Richmond and decided to begin a new congregation that would carry on about 186 years of ministry that is still fostering today at a place called St. John's United Methodist Church. A legacy that's partnered alongside 186 of those 200 years in Richmond, and we've been a part of the community, and the community has been a part of us. I love that kind of idea, that reflection. So it draws me deeper now into looking towards this Sunday. This Sunday we will have our regular worship services, but in each service we'll do a period of celebration, also an acknowledgement of our veterans. Veterans Day is coming up November 11th. This is the closest Sunday to that. So we'll celebrate and honor our veterans in our worship experiences. And I hope maybe on Veterans Day you'll find a community a celebration of some kind to participate in and support. And then also this Sunday, November 9th, we will have an afternoon charge conference, and that's an annual thing that we do to review the state of the church, if you will. And we're going to be doing all of our reports and everything with other churches at Christ United Methodist Church, at Christ Church is what they call it too, in Sugar Land. And hopefully if you want to be a part of that, you'll join me there at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. If you are going to come, maybe send me a text or let me know on Sunday morning so I can kind of count up in my head and figure how many copies of reports and things that I will need to have with me at that charge conference. And then, of course, I just want to mention to you that if you're interested, at 4 o'clock is the charge conference, and of course, 5 o'clock you got traffic and everything else. So maybe, dinner at Luby's or something like that if you're interested. Anyway, moving forward, I want to also remind you that the Sunday after that, in November the 16th, November the 13th, we will have our First Fruits Sunday, and we'll be bringing our estimates of giving cards to our time of worship and offering those as a dedication of our first fruits for 2026, a way to celebrate the ways that we are in spirit of mindful anticipation of what we can do in our giving for the church in 2026. Now, I know some of you think that all we ever talk about in the church is money, but that's really not true. Stewardship is not just about money. It's about all of this area of giving ourselves and devoting ourselves to the life of the church and to the life of Christ and the ministry of Christ, the making of disciples. And so when we do that, I want you to know that this is not the only time that we'll talk about stewardship. We're going to talk about it when it comes to things like your time, your prayers, your presence, your gifts, your service, and your witness. Those are ways that we're going to keep on talking about stewardship. And yes, financially, we're trying to put something together now that will help in the planning and the preparation for 2026. And your estimate of giving card on that Sunday will help a lot in that process. It's also a way to kind of mindfully connect with you and God on what you want to do. It's not a contract, it's not a bill or anything like that. It's just a process of us making a fair estimate of what we can do. Now then, if you get a chance, look at 2 Corinthians chapter 9, beginning with the 6th verse. I want you to look at all the ways that Paul speaks to the early church and tells us about what being a cheerful giver is and what our gifts can do in the efforts of making it about God and not ourselves. And when we do that, what we discover is some essential things like your gift ends up making a difference to someone else's need. It meets a need. And in doing that, it speaks a message of hope and promise to that person to say, God heard you and God answered, and that you are loved. And then when they are experiencing that answer to their prayer and that answer to God's love, they're going to be looking at you then as their witness. And they're going to say, you know what, I want to be more like that too. So they're going to do an inventory of their gifts to God, and they're going to find a means of grace that shows them where they can do something very similar to another person or for another person and another need somewhere else. That then becomes the way that your witness makes a difference. And Paul continues this, but then he comes to the conclusion finally to say, you know what? You produce a need that's met. You produce a thanksgiving to God. You produce a witness that helps someone else to move forward in their faith. And when it's all said and done, it brings back that mindful understanding in our own spirit that there is no greater gift than what God has made for you and me. He ends it with, thanks God be to God for his indescribable gift. Verse 15. Spend some time on that passage, reflect on it, and join me this Sunday, next Sunday, as we continue to do the ministry and life of our church. May God bless and lead us all in our next steps. Amen.